Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Fellow Show. I'm your host, the Fellow KGB. You can follow me on Twitter at the Fellow KGB. It's Tuesday night. It's about 5:10 in the evening. We got a game tonight, a Tuesday night, the rare Tuesday night football game. I think it's been like over 10 years since we've had a Tuesday night game. So we got the Titans and the Buffalo Bills tonight. We're going to be looking at the Waiver Wire report that I have out here on the fantasyfellowship.com. So if you're new to the fantasyfellowship.com, I put out my waiver. I'm basically updating it Monday morning, and it'll be ready by the end of the day on Monday. I blast that out, and I keep updating it throughout the next couple of days. So at the top of the report, we're going to have our quarterbacks ranked here. These are basically, I kind of just list guys that I think might be available here, but if they're not, these guys should be priority. So for now, I've gone ahead and ranked quarterback one streaming options here. Ben Roethlisberger, Matt Stafford, Gardner Minshew. These are all guys that should be owned, but they all have really nice matchups this weekend. And the way I do this is I look at ESPN roster ownership here. And I mean, Pat Mahomes, he's basically owned in 100% of the leagues. But I start to look down here the list, and I kind of wait to see where there's a drop off. So Ben Roethlisberger here, he's only owned in 72.5% of leagues. So I add him to the list. Again, Matt Stafford, Gardner Minshew. These guys are all quarterback ones for the most part in almost any matchup. So those guys, if they're available, go ahead and scoop those guys up for sure this weekend. I like Kirk Cousins' matchup against Atlanta. I like Ryan Fitzpatrick against New York Jets. This is all for one quarterback league stuff too. So I do have a column down here for Superflex leagues. But the one guy that everyone's going to be interested in is Andy Dalton here. I have him listed as maybe the quarterback pickup of the year. We want a piece of that Dallas Cowboy offense. So specifically, if you had Dak Prescott and you're rolling with the Cowboys offense, I can see Andy Dalton being a main piece of your offense for you going forward. The schedule's really nice here. The Dallas Cowboys schedule the rest of the season. They're going to play Arizona on Monday Night Football next weekend, but then they get Washington, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's a tough matchup on paper, but they allow a lot of fantasy points to the quarterback. So their bye's not till week 10. So you're potentially getting a starter here for the next 4 weeks at least. And then when they get back from the bye, you're going to see at Minnesota, Washington. Baltimore might be a little bit of a tough spot here, but that's a Thursday night game. We'll evaluate that when we get there. But then again, they close with Cincinnati. San Francisco might be a tough matchup, and then Philadelphia. So I can see Andy Dalton being a piece of the offense for us that could help us, especially if you're at need a quarterback. If you waited on quarterback and you got Fitzpatrick out there, it's not a bad idea to get two quarterbacks in your stable and go from there. But for the most part, I play mostly Superflex leagues, so I have Andy Dalton here at the top of my list. No one's going to have Andy Dalton on their roster, maybe in dynasty rosters, but Andy Dalton, especially if you're hurting with quarterback two, I mean, this is a 50% free agent budget acquisition here. You should be spending almost $50 to $60, I think, on Andy Dalton this week if you're in a need. The league that I have shown here, I mean, I got Tom Brady, Teddy Bridgewater, and Justin Herbert, and I think I'm still going to go after Andy Dalton just because you want a piece of that offense. If you look at what the Cowboys were doing with Dak Prescott, I know Prescott's got rushing upside and he's got ability to make plays outside of the structure when a play breaks down. But Andy Dalton, I mean, he's a capable passer. He hit Michael Gallup for 2 deep shots to win the game the other day. I think he's got CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper humming along too. So he's gonna be. This could be the best situation that Andy Dalton's seen himself in. I know he's had some rough teams with the Bengals, but Andy Dalton's going to be totally capable as your quarterback too in Superflex League. So he's the one guy that I think you want to try to target in Superflex League for sure. And then if you're hurting at the quarterback one spot or you want to have a secure backup, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if Andy Dalton, throws 2 or 3 touchdowns a game with this offense. I know there's probably going to be a little bit more Ezekiel Elliott involved going forward, but Dallas Cowboys offense. Let's look here at what Dak Prescott's been doing for us. They throw the ball a lot. The defense is not great, so they're going to have to kind of keep slinging the ball a lot. But if we look at what Dak Prescott's done in the last few games, I mean, he's thrown the ball 39, 47, 57, 58 times. If Andy Dalton, I mean, maybe this is the Andy Dalton line here that you see, the 25 for 39, 266 yards and a touchdown. I could see this being a baseline for Andy Dalton where he's going to throw the ball 35, 40 times. He's got a good chance at scoring a touchdown every weekend. He's not going to have the rushing upside that Dak presents, but the numbers will be there. The offense is really stout. So Andy Dalton's the one quarterback to go get. Justin Herbert should be owned. Drew Lock. He's going to be nearing return. He might even play this weekend against the Patriots. So maybe we're not starting him this week if he returns, but if he's hanging around in a Superflex league, I can see that. Sam Darnold might be a deep stash in Superflex leagues. Alex Smith, I don't know if I'm interested in it, but if you need it, And then, I don't know, I had Tua Tagovailoa as a stash here, but with Ryan Fitzpatrick playing so good, I really don't know what to expect when we're going to see Tua. I have Mitch Trubisky just here as a stash. We never know if Nick Foles gets hurt or if he goes out and throws 3 picks or something. Maybe they start to look back at Trubisky. CJ Beathard with the Jimmy Garoppolo situation. We don't know if he's going to even play next week. So Beathard, I'm monitoring the 49ers quarterback situation for sure. And then Jacoby Brissett, Phillip Rivers, man, he just does not look like a viable quarterback right now. He can't really hit the outside and the deep shots. He's hitting all the running back and tight end routes fine, but he's not helping a very fruitful offense for football and for fantasy terms in real life. So that's pretty much it for the quarterbacks. I'm really excited about Andy Dalton. He came in. He came in a weird situation. Basically, the whole energy of that entire stadium gets sucked out, and then you're going to see Andy Dalton here just kind of come in. And the offense kind of sputtered for a little bit. But Andy Dalton came in and he was able to put them in position to win the game. So I have trust in Andy Dalton. He came in. He was 9 of 11, 111 yards, and just 1 attempt for 0 yards. But this was essentially 1 quarter of football for the Cowboys. So 10 passing attempts, that would be 40 in a game. He basically threw 111 yards in 1 quarter of a game. So I'm super interested in Andy Dalton. Make sure you can get him if you need him. Looking at the running backs, I don't really like the running back situation this week. There's not too many guys that stick out. So at the top here, I just listed some running backs that might be available in your league that are worth considering. Darrell Henderson. I know Cam Akers got dropped in a couple of my leagues, and Sean McVay is saying that he wants to get the rookie more involved going forward. So I like Cam Akers. Darrell Henderson's been the better producer between him and Malcolm Brown. So it's kind of a 3-way backfield mess in the Rams situation, but I still think Akers is the long-term hold there. Myles Gaskin, basically the entire Miami Dolphins backfield got a boost because they had a healthy scratch for Jordan Howard. So you see Myles Gaskin get the goal line touchdown, and then you see Matt Breida get a little bit more work too. So I'm hoping that Gaskin and Breida both could have some value going forward. I think Gaskin's if he's getting the goal line work, Gaskin's locked into basically a running back 2 roles, especially in PPR leagues. He's a really good RP2. And then now that, if they're going to keep listing Jordan Howard as inactive, you're going to probably see Matt Breida start to sneak into low-end RB2 flex territory if you are desperate and need an emergency back there. I have Devonta Freeman on the list. Josh Kelly. I don't feel good about Josh Kelly because I think Justin Jackson looks so good. I have him down here. Justin Jackson could be available in your league. They're on a bye this weekend, so I don't know if a lot of people are going to be spending a lot of money or making him a high priority. But I think, Justin Jackson, if you watch that game, he was the clear – just from the eye test, he was the much better back. He catches a lot of passes. He can provide some value for us as a low-end RB2, as long as Austin Eckler's out of the picture. Back to the top here, I have DeAndre Swift. He got a really good matchup against Jacksonville. Again, it's these rookies here. Cam Akers, DeAndre Swift, J.K. Dobbins. If any of these guys get dropped, it's the war of attrition in the NFL, and these guys, they all spent high draft picks on these rookie running backs, so it's only a matter of time before they start to see more and more workload as the season goes on. So keep an eye on those rookie running backs. If anyone gets dropped, I think they're worth a bench spot if you have the room. Philip Lindsay's going to be coming back this weekend against Denver. If he's somehow got dropped because someone needed to make a move or two to get another running back in there, Philip Lindsay's going to be back week 6. He's also Melvin Gordon insurance if you're a Melvin Gordon owner. So I could see Philip Lindsay being a sneaky ad there. And then it's going to be a 2-back committee. Again, they don't really have their healthy offense with the receivers and the quarterback play. So it's going to be a lot of run-heavy game scripts for the Broncos going forward. Adrian Peterson, he's a boom-bust running back for touchdown leagues, basically. And then hold on to Nyheim Hines. I know he's been kind of, really hard to trust lately, but he's still – Philip Rivers just dumped so many passes off to the running back. So keep an eye on Nyheim Hines. If he was available, he might be worth the ad in PPR leagues. But the guys here that we probably need to spend the most time about that should be, these are priority RBs that should be available in your league. The first one is going to be Chase Edmonds. He's just looked better in all facets of the game than Kenyon Drake. If we go here and filter by the running backs points here, I'm pretty sure Chase Edmonds has scored more than Kenyon Drake on the season so far. So we see Chase Edmonds here is the RB27 through 5 weeks. Kenyon Drake's the RB31. In terms of carries, Kenyon Drake's getting all the work that you want with 85 touches, 314 yards and 2 touchdowns. But Edmonds, he's getting 19 carries, almost 100 yards and a touchdown. But it's the passing work that is really popping out for Chase Edmonds' favor. Kenyon Drake's only been targeted 6 times all season, only 22 yards. But Chase Edmonds, man, getting 23 targets, 18 receptions, 129 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So he's starting to develop a really safe floor for PPR leagues where I think you could basically throw him out as your RB2. We got 5 weeks of data here. He's had 2 kind of, not so very good games of 4 and a 5.4. So we don't really want this, but the upside is 13.5, 15, 20. So he's got this wide range of outcomes. And they're going to keep throwing him the ball, 6, and 5 targets out of 3 games of 4 to 2. I'm very open to him getting more and more work as on the ground too. I don't think Kenyon Drake's impressing anybody at the moment right now. So if Edmonds is available, I really like him as a low-end RB2 play. We talked about Justin Jackson. He's on bye this weekend, so you might be able to sneak by and get him for cheap or, as a lower priority. But again, we really don't know how long Austin Eckler is going to be out, but I'm open to Justin Jackson being a RB2 for the next maybe 3-4 games at the most. And if anything happens to Eckler again, Justin Jackson's definitely a guy you want to have on your bench. Alexander Mattison, a lot of people probably have him higher on their list, but Dalvin Cook's got the groin injury. He's out week 6. They've already declared this, but then they have the bye week 7. So you're basically only getting one true starters game from Alexander Mattison. It's a really good matchup against Atlanta. So like if you're a Christian McCaffrey owner or some of these other guys that you just need one good week, then I could see Alexander Mattison being a plug and play for you. I mean, whoever already owns him is going to be starting him no matter what. But if he's hanging around your waiver wire, he's basically good for at least 1 week, and we don't know the future beyond. Dalvin Cook always seems to get dinged up, so there might be an opportunity for Mattison to get back into our lineups, but it's looking like just a 1 week start spot for Mattison at the moment. We got Damian Harris here. Sony Michel is on IR. I think he's been on IR for a week or 2 now, so Michel is coming back. So if you needed a spot start again, he's kind of like Alexander Mattison, where he should be getting the carries. Denver's not going to present much of a problem for this running game. So I think I think he had 17 carries the week before. So you could see another 15-plus touch game. He did rush for 100 yards in the last game too. So I think Damian Harris is a volume play against Denver this week. J.D. McKissick, man, this guy's catching a lot of passes. He led the team in catches last weekend. He had 7 catches on, I believe, 8 targets, and maybe it was like 46 yards. So he's a really low-end RB2 in PPR leagues. You can plug him in if you need him. And then Matt Breida here. We talked about Myles Gaskin and Breida at the top a little bit, but Jordan Howard, man, they paid him $9 million, I think, for 2 seasons. So it's a little weird why he was a healthy scratch. So as long as Jordan Howard continues to not make the active roster, I'm open to Matt Breida being a potential, low-end RB2 here. So Vikings? No, the Dolphins do not play the Rams this weekend. Who did the Dolphins play? Let me look here. Ryan Fitzpatrick. Yeah, they play the Jets. So it's a good spot start for the running backs in the Miami backfield. We got Mike Boone here. He's just a low-end RB2 at best. He's like an emergency play if you really need the help there. He looked really good on his touches the other night. But again, Dalvin Cook's going to be out this week, so maybe 5 or 6 touches for Mike Boone, and he's really explosive, so he could take one of those to the house. He's kind of like a Chase Edmonds type running back. And then I got Cordero Patterson down here. Going against Carolina, we saw Cordero's usage get ticked up but just a little bit, and what's cool about Cordero is he's listed as a running back wide receiver, I think, on most platforms. So I just want to pull up his usage real quick here. Let the internet think a little bit. I don't know if he's going to be – so they have him listed as a receiver on this site, but for the most part, I mean, 3 targets – or they got it flipped here. So 2 targets the week before, 3 last weekend. He caught all 3 of his targets for 38 yards against Tampa Bay, and then 3 rushing attempts for 7 yards. So it's a low floor PPR, but if you're in an emergency situation, you could whip Cordero Patterson out there. Carolina's defense doesn't really scare us, but maybe 8 points, this week. So that's pretty much it for running backs. On the wide receiver side of things, these are all receivers that might be owned, but you never know. They could be available in your league. That's Darius Slayton. Sammy Watkins, someone might cut him. We don't know how long I think it's the hamstring injury. We don't know how long Watkins is going to be out. But, I mean, if someone's, cuts Watkins a little prematurely and you have that IR spot, you could just pick him up and slide him right down to the IR spot and then go pick up another guy. So keep an eye on for Sammy Watkins if he gets cut. Brandon Cooks, I know a lot of people cut him after his 0 reception game 2 weeks ago, so he might be a really high priority add this weekend. Henry Ruggs, he's another guy that's got a bye this weekend, so people might be a little bit shy to spend more money or to put him high on their priority, so I really want Henry Ruggs on my team if he's available. Christian Kirk's been seeing more volume the last couple of weekends, and he's been getting more consistent. So I like Christian Kirk and his growth in the offense there. I've talked about Sterling Shepard a little bit last week, but I think he's going to be eligible to return off IR this week. And I mean, they need all the help they can get on offense. So I think Sterling Shepard might be a potential play this weekend if he's going to be back and ready to go. But especially if he's available, you can add him to the end of your bench, see what happens. He's got wide receiver 3 flex value every week that he's healthy. They might bring him along a little slowly, but I'm really interested in Sterling Shepard here. T. Higgins, we've been talking about him for the last 2 weeks. If he's somehow hanging around your waiver wire still, he's basically the alpha receiver there in Cincinnati for Joe Burrow. And we know Tyler Boyd's going to be the slot machine catching most of the targets and the passes, but T. Higgins is going to be their guy. Big play, red zone threat, really big receiver. I like what I see out of Higgins. I have Mecole Hardman here on the list. Sammy Watkins is out for a small period of time with his hamstring injury, so Mecole Hardman's going to step into the number 2 role there. Hopefully we see some more consistency from him going forward. I mean, Mike Williams, he had hell of a game last night. He's on a bye too, so it's a little bit weird this week. There's a lot of players that have high potential, but they're on bye this weekend. So if Mike Williams is available, man, he looks so good. And with Justin Herbert, he's not afraid to chuck the ball deep, so I really like the connection that we saw last night. And Mike Williams could be a boom bust for you, boom bust wide receiver 3 for you going forward. We got Marquez Valdez-Scantling on the list. As Devontae Adams returns, you're going to see more soft coverages towards MVS and more, thought and attention goes to Devontae. So it's not going to surprise me if we see MVS start to get open deep a little bit like he was the first week or two. And then Randall Cobb, just because the Houston Texans offense is going to continue to throw the ball. Now they have, Will Fuller and Brandon Cooks are both, humming along still healthy. So Randall Cobb kind of gets to run around free in the slot with not a lot of attention on his end. But the high priority wide receivers to add that should be available, of course, it's going to be Chase Claypool and his 4 touchdowns that he saw last weekend against the Eagles. It's just a miraculous rookie effort from I think his 5th game, and he's got 4 touchdowns in 1 game. So this looks like a guy that could be a pretty big player for us. And then maybe next year we're going to be talking about Chase Claypool anywhere in the 5th, 6th round if he keeps this up. We don't know if Juju Smith-Schuster is going to be back with the team. But for now, what are you getting if you get Chase Claypool in your lineup? Let's take a look here at Chase Claypool, his stats so far. What I really like about it is they're trying to get him involved in various ways. Whether that's the run game, they like him in the red zone. So we see last weekend he had 3 rushing attempts for 6 yards and the touchdown. 11 targets. I don't know if he's going to see this 11 targets as much anymore now that teams know, hey, we should probably have a game plan for this kid. But 7 for 110 and a touchdown. You see the week 2, he had 17.8. You might get a game like this every now and then where it's just 1 catch for 24 yards. And then right here, this is probably going to be his floor going forward where he sees 2 or 3 targets and 2 or 3 catches per game. But he's got this wide range of outcome. He kind of reminds me of Michael Gallup or Will Fuller at the moment, where he could have a 3, 4, 5 point game, but then just the next week he's going to go off for 88 and a touchdown, or he's going to catch 100 yards and just blow up. So I think if you add Chase Claypool, you're not going to want to let him sit on the bench. You're getting him to start him as your wide receiver 3 flex. And then he's tied to Ben Roethlisberger. You really like that. Defenses have to focus on Juju, Deontay, Eric Ebron. So it's just a really healthy situation for a rookie wide receiver to produce for us. So I love Chase Claypool. He's probably available in almost every league that you play in besides dynasty leagues. But Claypool is going to be a plug-and-play wide receiver 3 ad. Got a really good spot coming up against Cleveland. Travis Fulgham going up against Baltimore. It's a tough matchup against Baltimore, but it's hard to ignore the production that he just had. I think he had a lot of targets. Let me take a look here at the wide receiver spot. So fantasy points. Where is Travis Fulgham? Here, we'll just search for him. Fulgham. So, the Eagles are still pretty banged up at wide receiver, but, any receiver that's going to go out and catch 10 balls on 13 targets, 152 yards, and a touchdowns in back-to-back weeks, we have to give this some attention. So Deshaun Jackson, we don't know if he's coming back anytime soon. We think Alshon Jeffrey's going to be back in a week or 2, and Jalen Reagor might not be back till after the bye. So as long as these guys remain out, I think Travis Fulgham's going to have some role going forward. So really tough matchup coming up against Baltimore, but maybe against the Giants and the Dallas Cowboys. And then after the bye week, even he plays the Giants. So he's got some really good matchups behind the Baltimore game, but he's going to be a boom bust, flex play, wide receiver 3 this weekend. But if you miss out on a guy like Claypool, you should put in an ad for Fulgham. Preston Williams, kind of the same thing. He's got Devontae Parker to help take coverage off of him, but it looked like Preston Williams finally came alive. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time with a guy coming back off an ACL injury. So he had kind of 4 weeks of pedestrian output, and then he blows up for the touchdown. I think it was 4 for 90 and a touchdown or something like that. So really good spot start against the Jets. If you need receiver help this weekend, I think Preston Williams could help you out. Laviska Shenault is coming on. He's starting to play some of his best football of the season. And the thing about it's kind of like what I was talking about with these rookies, the rookie running backs, the rookie receivers. Now that we've seen, the receivers have been fantastic. And their roles are only going to grow. The same thing with the running backs, the same thing with the receivers. These teams want to get these kids more involved. And you see Laviska Shenault here, he stacked 2 14-point games in PPR leagues, 6 targets, 5 catches, 86 yards the last week, and then 8 targets, 7 catches, 79 yards against Houston here. So he's stacking some really good games. He's got a floor of about 8 points. This guy is a wide receiver. He's probably the safest wide receiver. If you're trying to add Claypool, Fulgham, Preston Williams, he's got the safest floor where he can get you 8 to 10 points pretty easy. And I think those touchdowns are going to start coming soon. So Laviska Shenault is one of my favorite players to watch. So try to add him if he's available. You got Demarcus Robinson down here. This is kind of because we talked about Sammy Watkins being out with the hamstring injury. We don't know if this is a 2 or 3 week. It'd be helpful if they just put him on IR so we know it's 3 weeks. But this is going to boost Mecole Hardman's value, and it's going to boost Demarcus Robinson's value. If you remember last year, I think it was maybe the first 3 or 4 games, Demarcus Robinson lit it up. He had a really good, strong start to the season. That was because Tyreek Hill was out. So Sammy Watkins, he's no Tyreek Hill, but this guy dominated a lot. Sammy Watkins dominated a lot of the snaps. So you're going to see Demarcus Robinson step into basically a starter's role as the wide receiver 3. We love this offense, but this is what I was talking about last year. So week 1, we didn't like the output, but with Tyreek Hill out week 2, I think he was out maybe week 2 through 6. So you see Robinson here with 6, 4, 9, and 6 targets. He had the boom game against Las Vegas last year, 172 yards, 2 touchdowns, catches another touchdown the week after. But then week 4 and 5, he catches 3 and 4 balls, about 30 yards. So this is going to be about his floor going forward, about 6 to 7 points. But he's got this massive upside here where he can just strike deep with a bomb from Patrick Mahomes. So he's definitely a guy that I'm interested in. I think a lot of people are going to be focused on Claypool, maybe Fulgham, and maybe some of the running backs. So I think Demarcus Robinson could be a low-key ad for a couple bucks. So check that out. And then the tight end spot. I hate the tight end spot this year right now. Everyone probably picked up Robert Tonyan the weekend before. So if he's still available, he's going to be the number 1 priority. Devontae Adams is going to be back this weekend. So Tanyan's still going to probably be running around pretty free with nice coverages. So I like that. Jimmy Graham, he got the touchdown against the Bucs. Got a really good spot start here against Carolina. And then Austin Hooper, we kind of like what we've been seeing from Austin Hooper the last 2 weeks. I think he's been a tight end 1 the last 2 weekends. So if we filter here by PPR points, you're going to see Austin Hooper. He's been creeping back up the rankings here. He's tight end 19. But what he's done the last 2 weekends, I've taken notice of. So against Dallas, week 4, 7 targets, 5 catches, 34 yards, and the touchdown. And then last weekend against Indianapolis, this was supposed to be a tough matchup. He sees 10 targets, 5 for 57, no touchdown. But, if you can get a tight end that gets 10 to 14 points per week, that's a really good spot for a tight end. So, he's got a floor of at least 2 or 3 catches and, 20 to 30 yards. So hopefully we start to see Austin Hooper develop some chemistry with Baker Mayfield and keep that going. But, man, 7 and 10 targets the last 2 weekends. I'm into Austin Hooper if he's available. You got Cameron Brate here. He had a pretty nice game for Tom Brady in Thursday Night Football. I'm trying to see where he is on this list. Cameron Brate. So he's tight end 40 right now. But, again, O.J. Howard's out for the season. Cameron Brate steps right in, gets 6 targets, 5 catches, 44 yards. Somewhere in the 7 to 9 point range, I think we could see Cameron Brate developing a nice floor for himself. You got Trey Burton here. I don't love Trey Burton as a player, but he's getting the targets. And it's basically a 3-way committee at tight end right now. But they obviously have a plan for Trey Burton. He saw 5 and 6 targets in his 2 games back. 2 catches the one week, but then he had 5 catches last Sunday for 33 yards. So he's got a floor of 4 to 8 points. We could see his role grow a little bit. And like we said at the top, Philip Rivers loves throwing quarterbacks. So I'm into Trey Burton, Rob Gronkowski. Again, OJ Howard's out. It's going to be Gronk or Cameron Brate trading off touchdowns every weekend. Eric Ebron here. He's looking pretty good with target-wise. He did make the stupid fumble mistake at the end of the game last week. But you see Eric Ebron down here at tight end number 22. What I like about Ebron is he's starting to develop a safe floor of targets and fantasy points here. So he hasn't gone below 43 yards for 3 weeks. He did catch a touchdown week 3, but 5, 7, 6 targets. You like that. 7, 16, and 9 for fantasy points. So he's somewhere in that 7 to 9 floor range, I think, going forward. Then you got Jordan Akins here. I liked what Akins did before his concussion injury. He should be back this week, so I'm keeping my eye on him. Let's take a look at what Jordan Akins falls into here. He's tight end number 21 right now, so he's really under the radar. But in the games that he's played, 11.9, 12.5, about 4.8, and 7.6. So on a low-end game, he's going to get you about 5 or 6 points. I don't know if he's going to get these big 7-target games anymore, but I'm keeping an eye on him. If he gets the targets, I mean, he's really good. You look at these average catches here. He's a really big yard-after-catch guy. And Deshaun Watson's going to keep throwing the ball at the tight ends. And then probably the last guy I want to talk about here is James O'Shaughnessy for Detroit, or going up against Detroit. He's on Jacksonville Jaguars. He's tight end number 32 right now. And Tyler Eifert just suffered a neck injury. Who knows how long Tyler Eifert's going to be out? So essentially you're plugging in Gardner Minshew's tight end 1. And he actually had some success with him last year. So I'm going to pull that up in a sec. But, I mean, Gardner, if you look at what Gardner's been doing, he's been throwing a lot to the tight ends. So just on the season, 14 targets for O'Shaughnessy. We look at Eifert real quick. Eifert's seen 23 targets. So that's 37 targets to these 2 tight ends. If Eifert's out of the picture, you're looking at, 5, 6, 7 targets per game for O'Shaughnessy. Tyler Davis here, he's actually the number 3 tight end. O'Shaughnessy's going to be the main pass-catching tight end. So a bad game from O'Shaughnessy is going to be about, this 3 for 20 line, maybe 2 for 30 or something like that. So it's about 5 or 6 points. But if you go back to last year, this is kind of what I was talking about, where O'Shaughnessy did some nice things to start the year. He was developing a really safe floor of, 3 to 5 targets, of 3 or 4 catches. And he's got a good chemistry with Gardner Minshew. So I'm expecting somewhere in this line to be his floor going forward. So keep an eye on him. And again, I think Tyler Eifert's going to be out for a little bit. So just some shout-out names here. Irv Smith, if you want to add him. He had 4 catches for 60-some yards against the Seahawks the other night. Gerald Everett caught 4 for 90, and he's rushed for a touchdown the week before. So it's really interesting how the Rams are using their tight ends. We don't love the usage for Gerald Everett, but he's tight end 28 the last 2 weekends. 8.2 and a 13-point fantasy game. He's going to be really inconsistent. He's got low volume here, but he's a playmaker. If anything happens to Higbee, we're going to be all over Gerald Everett in the future. Greg Olsen here, he's on a bye week, and if you need a guy going forward, he could be a low-end PPR play. And then Dallas Goedert, if he is still available, I think he's going to be on IR at least 1 or 2 more weeks. You can slide him down to the IR and then you go pick up another player. But this offense, it needs pass catchers. So I think Dallas Goedert's going to have a pretty big workload when he comes back. So keep an eye out for him. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's going to do it for the Week 6 Waiver Wire report. I just want to talk about a little bit of other things I got going on here on the site. You can check out the Week 6 start-sit charts. I think I'm going to start uploading these tonight. I don't have anything in here, but we got the Raiders, the Saints, the Chargers, and Seahawks on by. So I'm sure you guys will have a lot of questions on start-sit. So if you ever need a question, you can hit me up on Twitter at @thefellowKGB. You can hit me up on the Facebook page. I don't talk about it much, but I do have an Instagram page as well. This the title @thefellowKGB. So if you have questions, hit me up. I'm down to answer all your questions. And then the other thing that I put out every week here is going to be the Week 5, or it's the opportunity report. I do it every week. So far I have all of the stats. I want to see who's getting the snaps, and I want to see all the stats next to it. So I do this for all the games that have played so far. I'll have to log tonight's game. But all those games are logged in there, and you can actually see, if you wanted to go back and look at the history, I didn't do Week 1, but I got the last few weeks here. So we got the opportunity report, the waiver wire report, which we just went over, and then I'm going to start doing the weekly start-sit. So I think tomorrow night, there's no Thursday night football tomorrow night, so I usually do my Thursday night preview on Wednesday, but I might have to pivot and do something else tomorrow night. But we'll be back with our start sit part 1 on Thursday. We'll be doing our start sit part 2 on Friday. It looks like we got a question in here from Blue Crew Chep. Let's take a look at this question here. So 10-team PPR league, you got is that Joshua Kelly or Robert Tonyan droppable for Claypool or Freeman? My RBs are Kamara, David Montgomery, Melvin Gordon, and Kenyon Drake. My receivers are Thielen, Godwin, John Brown, Hollywood Brown, Higgins, and Tyler Higbee. You got a really good team here. So yeah, I think I'm assuming because it's Justin Jackson or Joshua Kelly. I'm assuming that it's Joshua Kelly that you're referencing here. I mean, he just didn't look very good. I think they're going to give Justin Jackson more work going forward. And because your RBs are so deep, I don't think you're going to need that as much. So if you can get a guy like Claypool or Devonta Freeman, I think Joshua Kelly is the one guy I would drop. It looks like, I mean, you're going to be starting Alvin Kamara and David Montgomery and Melvin Gordon over a guy like Devonta Freeman, I think, most weekends. So I think I'm more interested in Chase Claypool. Godwin's been dinged up. John Brown's been dinged up. I guess I really like your depth at receiver too. So I think I'm going to rank it Claypool as the more priority add. And then, I mean, if you just put a low end bid on Devonta Freeman too, if you can get one of those guys, I think that would be a good move. But yeah, with Robert Tonyan, I think you got to hold on to him. Because I kind of want to see what Robert Tonyan looks like without, or when Devonta Adams gets back. I want to see how Rob Tonyan performs. So I think a lot of defenses are going to be focusing on Aaron Jones and Devonta Adams, of course. So you might see Robert Tonyan continuing to do what he does. He's not going to catch 3 touchdowns every week, but when they get near the red zone, he's going to be a viable option. So, and just because tight ends are so thin right now, Robert Tonyan, he's on that short list of 12 or 15 tight ends that you want to have on your roster. So I think that's going to be my advice, is to consider getting rid of Joshua Kelly to go after Claypool and then Devonta Freeman. So I hope that helps. Thanks for your question. And if you guys have any more questions, you can always, especially because I think what I saw at ESPN, Matthew Berry tweeted out that waivers are going to be delayed a week. So technically we normally on a normal week, we'd be putting in our waiver claims tonight and seeing who we get tomorrow morning. But it sounds like we're going to get the extra day tomorrow. So claims are going to be flying, tomorrow. We'll wake up on Thursday and see who we got. So if you need any help with questions or roster construction or even trades or anything, you can either comment on the video, hit me up on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. I got all the links that you need there. So I don't know. That's pretty much it. We got it's basically 5:45. So we got a football game on Tuesday night coming up. Thank you so much for hanging out. If you're not subscribed to the channel, please do. We got a lot of content putting out the rest of the week. And yeah, thank you so much.